Welcome back to Pursuing Justice. I'm Harriet Hendel. We began a series 2 weeks ago with Jennifer Thompson and Katie Monroe, who started Healing Justice, an organization which reaches out to people all across the country, people who have been harmed by our justice system due to wrongful conviction. Our first podcast in this series focused on stories of survivors and what they need to heal, personal stories of Jennifer and Katie. Our second podcast explored how Healing Justice came to be and a little bit of what their mission is. Today, we will delve deeper into the organization's programs and goals. So that's a great place to begin. Katie, let's maybe begin with you. Tell us about the structure of your project, and have you modeled it after any organization that is similar to Healing Justice?
Absolutely, and thank you again for giving this opportunity to talk about our extremely unique work. I don't think that we have modeled after anyone else, only because we truly are. Healing Justice really is the first organization to take on this lens of all harmed by these particular injustices. We have created our own model, and I think that's really important. We've as we're growing, we really believe that our model probably is one of what we call transformative justice that could apply in many other types of contexts and to many other types of cases of injustice. And so it's exciting to be able to talk about this. Our name is Healing Justice, and it's really appropriate because we those are the two major prongs of our work. We have a set of healing work and a set of what we call justice work. And in our healing work, we are really focused on creating safe spaces and individualized support that allow us to tackle the complex grief and trauma that are caused by these particular injustices. And we do that both for individuals and in the setting of families and whole communities. And then on the justice side of our work, we are focused on improving the justice system to prevent future harm by these cases. And as part of that, we work really hard to restore the voices of those who have been harmed and involve them in our work and enable them to go out and be leaders for reform in their own communities. Our model involves essentially 4 sets of program services. In our healing work, we offer group retreats, both in person and virtually. And those healing retreats, which Jennifer, and she can talk about this, personally designed in collaboration with restorative justice experts. These gatherings are really the cornerstone of our work. They've been in many ways the most unique and most successful aspect of our work. We bring people together for peer support and restorative justice and art therapy and other trauma recovery activities that enable both healing for the individuals and healing across the group. And again, we do this as retreats in person, and since the beginning of this awful pandemic, have been gathering people virtually. And we're always excited to share that we've now had 14 very successful Healing Justice retreats, in-person retreats, and we've also done 28 virtual circles in the short 5 years that we've been around, and that's very exciting for us. And we'll be continuing that aspect of our work for sure. And to supplement that group healing activities, or those group healing activities, we also offer individualized support and services and resources, so that if individuals have personal requests for assistance, we can help connect them up with service providers. We also are in the process of training people in our community to provide one-on-one peer support. We've developed a set of online resources where individuals can get support and assistance on their own through our website. We've created a set of documentary peer support films for crime victims and survivors, and a catalog of peer-led resources for exonerees and their families. And so that really rounds out our healing work, both the group and the individual support. And then on the justice side, we do a variety of training and technical assistance, particularly for criminal justice professionals and agencies. We work with prosecution and victim service and law enforcement agencies around the country, both to train their staff, sometimes agency-wide, sometimes statewide, but we also provide individual technical assistance in ongoing cases as needed. And of course, we do a lot of public education on top of that. And then another really uniquely designed program service that we offer is something that we call listening sessions, which create opportunities for individuals who've been harmed in these cases to sit in a safe space and share with criminal justice professionals what they experienced. Because one of our values at Healing Justice, Jennifer and I felt very strongly about this from the beginning, was that even though she and I both have personal experiences with wrongful conviction, we couldn't know, right? We couldn't speak for everyone else who had been harmed. And so we knew we needed to start by listening to others. They were the experts. And so we've held listening sessions for exonerated individuals, for their family members, for crime victims and survivors. We're actually working now on a listening session with other impacted people, particularly criminal justice professionals like jurors and prosecutors and others. And we found that these listening sessions serve two really important purposes. One, they really help restore the voices of those who've been impacted by these injustices. They have an opportunity to share without being questioned. And then the criminal justice professionals or the others, the policymakers who listen in these settings, learn how they can do better, how they can provide a better service and improve the justice system to prevent future harm. So really that is the set of program services that we're very excited to share. And, we really think this kind of work could apply even beyond wrongful conviction cases. So we hold it out as a model now.
I wanted to ask you to maybe just very briefly explain the concept of restorative justice. I've read several books about it, and there was a wonderful program done by Van Jones called the Redemption Project. It was done about a year ago, and it really showed how victims and perpetrators came together to speak about what happened. A very rare kind of program. So what exactly would you say restorative justice is?
Well, I'm gonna give a broad answer, and then I would really love for Jennifer to describe how the first restorative justice event in a wrongful conviction case came to pass, because it became the model. The one that she designed became the model of the work that we do. I think probably the most important piece about restorative justice for people to understand is that it was created to provide a response to crime victims and survivors, something alternative to the criminal justice system, which is really focused on the suspect, the accused, right, the defendant, and the prisoner. And so a true restorative justice approach has a crime victim or survivor's experience and needs at the center of it. And in the case of wrongful convictions, there are the traditional crime victims and survivors, those who were hurt by the original crime, like Jennifer and so many others. But we see exonerated individuals and their families as victims in these cases as well. And so when we think about restorative justice at Healing Justice, we really see a space where we're all harmed, sit together and ask those key questions, those key restorative justice questions, which are, How were you harmed? What did you need then? What did you need? What do you need now? And whose responsibility is it to meet those needs? But it was truly Jennifer Long. But before I became involved with Healing Justice, Jennifer sat down and designed the very first restorative justice event in a wrongful conviction case. And I think it'd be important for her to share how that came to be.
Sure. Jennifer?
Yeah. Well, as I alluded to earlier, Ronald and I, when we first met in that church so long ago, kind of engaged in what would be a restorative justice moment where we could both sit together and ask each other the questions that we needed to ask. And I didn't know that at the time. It wouldn't be for a few years when someone looked at me and said, "Hey, can you come to this event and talk about restorative justice?" And I remember looking at them perplexed and said, "I don't even know what you're talking about." And that's when I really learned what restorative justice was. And like Katie said, in a wrongful conviction case, both parties are the victims. And what we should be looking for in answers and for healing should come from the perpetrator, which oftentimes is unknown, or the state, which had the responsibility to give justice to the victims and, of course, not incarcerate innocent people. But that was going to be a tall order to fill because most of the states weren't really in a position or in a place where they were willing to admit that there had been something wrong, that there had been a harm committed on behalf of the state. So in 2014, I had gone out to San Francisco. I, again, did another eyewitness presentation, and one of our very close colleagues, who at that point was the director of the Northern California Innocence Project, looked at me and said, "Hey, what do you think about the possibility, is it even possible to do a restorative justice moment in a wrongful conviction?" And my answer came back as absolutely, I think you can. And so we sat down and began to think about what this would look like, and we were able to host the very first restorative justice moment, really in a organized way. Out in California, we brought together 4 exonerated men, and we brought together 3 original crime survivors for a weekend, and started exploring the questions of how were you harmed, what do you need, and whose obligation is it to provide that. And it was a huge success. And
Wonderful.
And it was after that moment, after that weekend, that I really knew that this was something that we could do on a much bigger scale, on a national level, and not just the exonerated folks, but their families, and not just the crime survivors, but their families. And what would it look like if we were able to provide this safe space where people could come and validate each other's experiences and witness each other's harms, and begin to heal together as a community of all harmed. So in 2015, that's when I launched Healing Justice, and we've just been working ever since then.
Right. You must be so proud of what you've achieved, both of you, so far. What are you most pleased about?
Jennifer, you go.
Well, I mean, there's so many things that I'm proud about, but to be honest with you, I mean, one of the things I take the greatest pride in is watching individuals kind of claim their lives back and have that moment when you can see it happening. And Katie and I often refer to it as magic because we can't figure